Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining us. Welcome to One Day Today. We are on episode 46, and I'm very excited about our guest today. We are in full swing. We're actually we have a lot of things. You haven't really heard a lot about it because I haven't really spoken about it, but we have a lot of things in development in the background with our organization, our nonprofit, with our board of directors. But we're about to be leveling up very soon with all the this whole experience, and I'm really just excited and just happy that you're joining us and happy that you're with us. We're only getting started. This is phase one of One Day, but we are a movement. We are an organization focused on the beauty and the amazing people in the world who are, despite pandemic, despite civil unrest, despite all the conversations of division and separateness, despite chaos and suffering in the world, there are still people who are creating a new conversation and creating a new beautiful world for us all to live in and experience and create together. And it's an honor to be here today with you. So I'm gonna hop to it. I'm gonna introduce our guest, Earlene Coats. Hello, hi Earlene. How are you?
Oh, Abram, I'm excellent. How are you?
I'm doing well today. I was telling you earlier before we started. It's been a busy day, but I feel the wind at my back, and I feel a lot of beautiful things opening up, so I can't complain.
I love it.
Yeah. Well, I'm really excited about you joining us and to have you share your story. So I'm just going to let you have at it, if that's all right with you.
Yeah, that's great.
You're
I appreciate it.
all right. Well, on that note, Earlene, the stage is yours.
Well, thank you so much. I am Earlene Coats. I have a company, Everyday University. And right now, I'm excited about the latest mastermind I'm about to release, which is From Chaos to Calm for Busy Moms. And you look at that and you can see in the world today how that probably is very relevant. But that actually was born out of my life story. I was and still am a mom, I'm a grandma, but I followed the path that I was taught, and we still teach our kids, which is go to college, get a degree, get a good job, and then life will be perfect. And I did have a great life. I was worked in corporate America, same company for over 30 years. And I did all of the things that my financial advisor told me to do, my corporation, actually two financial advisors. And then when I chose to take early retirement, I suddenly realized that everything they taught me didn't set me up for the possibility of early retirement. In my case, I chose to take early retirement because it was offered as a situation where the company I was working for was going through many layoffs. And at that point in time in my life, I happened to know, because of everyone else who was at my job classification, that it would likely be that I would be laid off within the next 3 to 5 years. So looking at that, I had a choice. I could get twice as much money and benefits if I took the early retirement option, or I could hold out and see if I was one of the lucky ones that managed to slip by the layoffs. I chose the let me get double the money, and everyone else who was at my job level, who was doing the job that I was, they have all since been laid off, and they're off in doing their second job. So through that, I've learned a number of things. And part of that was that there's a lot that we don't teach our kids today. There's a lot that in many ways I wasn't taught even years ago. And it is critical to understand that as you're young, so that you're set up for whatever might come as you hit the point in time where maybe you want to choose to retire. Now, at this point, I don't know that I will ever fully retire because I absolutely love what I do. But it is, you want to be in a place where you can make different choices if you choose to. So again, get the job, college degree, job, career, and life is perfect. But there are many kids today who are not ever going to use the college degree if they get one. There are many kids who really don't want to go to college, but they're being forced down that path, ultimately resulting in significant student loan debt and a lot of stress. And those debts last well into your 30s, 40s, 50s, depending on where you're at. And I've come to appreciate that there are so many unique gifts and talents that we each have, and some of those can be put to practice without ever having to go get a college degree. They are, some cases, trade schools are an excellent option for some people. Again, it all depends on what you're at, where you're at. But today we have a lot of moms who are on that hamster wheel of working to get by, and now we have them working at home, trying to help support kids who are going through distance learning. And not their life was crazy before, and it's even more challenging now. So having worked, in my case, I worked the 50, 60, 70 hours a week. My kids were in daycare and then, on their own at different points. I had an opportunity to be involved in a lot of their school activities, but there was a lot I missed out on. And I know that that's happening for moms today, just as it was for me back then. So taking that time to come back and understand how they can better care for themselves, that is going to be the best way they can care for their kids. We can't give what we don't have for ourselves. And today we're not taking good care of ourselves as moms, and in my case as grandmas. I'm learning to do a better job of that self-care. And as you go back, I'm going to take you back to the Bible. Jesus says the two greatest commands are love God and love your neighbor as yourself. And the piece of that verse that sometimes gets overlooked is love your neighbor as yourself. And that implies that if you haven't loved yourself well, you're not going to be able to know how to love your neighbor. So as you look at not only the things that are going on in your homes with the chaos, the kids that are stressed because of all of the challenges of distance learning, but that stress, much of it comes from us as moms. As we are stressed ourselves, that energy then fills over onto our kids, which then creates even more of a ripple effect. So as you look at busy moms, how can you best support yourself? How can you best support your kids? Because ultimately we're out there looking to support our families, to love them well. And in order to love them well, we need to do a good job of taking care of ourselves. So if it is a day of going and getting pampered somehow, it's become a lot more challenging to be able to do that. Maybe it's a day where you're able to go and spend a half day out in nature all by yourself, allowing yourself to hear the music you love. Whatever it is that feeds your soul, that's going to put you in a place of being a lot more calm yourself. And as a result of being more calm for yourself, you then show up differently in your household, and you show up differently with your kids and your spouse, all of that. And the other side of this is Abram, you made reference to the civil unrest and all of the other dynamics that are going on from a societal standpoint right now. Much of that stems from the fact that hurt people hurt people. And we have a lot of that going on around us. So stepping back and learning how to be good to yourselves, how to love yourself, give yourself credit for all of the great things you do. Are there things that you can do different and do better? Absolutely. But how much credit do you give yourself for all of the things you win at? It's real easy to get so focused on the negative things you do, the things that you didn't do as well as you wanted, and absolutely forget about what you did so amazingly well. And so I love a process that I teach as well, which is going from impossible to possible with your dreams. So, my question for you is, what dreams have you put aside and considered impossible? What are all of the obstacles that you currently have out there that are the things that are holding you back from, I can't do that. I don't have time. I don't have money. I don't, all of the long list of reasons why we come up with things we can't do. Or if you want to take my story even a few years back, okay, a lot of years back, and as a 5-year-old, a kindergartner, I was given a scribble art project, scribble a design and color in the lines. And I was super excited by that exercise, that art project. So I did my very best at school. I went home and showed my mom what I had done and was showing her how we did that. And the next day I went into school and I had a sad face on my paper. So I failed at scribble art. Now, as you think about that, it sounds silly, but what that did to my little 5-year-old brain is say, you're not creative. And when I say that, it was really artistic, but the words I associated with it at that point was, you're not creative. Now, I don't think that that was ever the intent of my teacher. I don't know exactly what it was. I don't remember why I got the sad face, but what I do remember is the impact it had on me. And over the years, in the back of my mind, I had that story running of, you're not creative. And as you look at my corporate career, I was an architect for large computer systems. And, I designed a lot of the software side of computer systems. So I was wildly creative. I'm gifted in some amazing ways. And in my mind, I know that what I was saying to myself is I wasn't artistic, yet it still was, the brain was getting the, I'm not creative. So what are those dreams that are on hold because of some of those lies that someone else has told you? Is it, if you're going to pursue your art, you're going to be a starving artist. I have a friend who that was the story she was told as a kid. She chose to follow her art, and for a long time she was. I have another friend whose mom said, do what you love and figure out how to pay for it. And they created this amazing life. The other friend of mine figured out a way to use her art to create a very successful business. So although you have obstacles, although you have people in your head that are saying, you've got, you can't, if you do that, it won't happen, that's an obstacle. The next step in overcoming those obstacles is to spend some time and really ramp your energy up by focusing on all the things you're grateful for. I was working with a coach years ago, and he was challenged to do that exercise. Now, at the point in time, he was living in a tin shed in Utah in the middle of the summer where it's 110 degrees outside, and he's basically homeless. And he's saying, I have nothing that I'm grateful for. They kept pressing him and pressing him. And finally he said, I'm grateful for this pen. I'm grateful for the way the pen feels in my hand. I'm grateful for the fact that I can write a note to a friend. I'm grateful that I can keep notes. And before you know it, he was on this roll of all of the other things he was grateful for. And suddenly he was able to start overcoming those obstacles that had been holding him back. So as you look at that in your life, what are the dreams you've put aside? What are the things you're not doing today that would fill you up, that feed your soul, that you're not doing because someone said you couldn't somehow? And they may not have been intentionally trying to be mean. It could have been just that subtle voice of a sad face on a scribble art project that caused you to put a lie in your head that is so not true for today. So my challenge for you is, out of this, look at those dreams. What are things you've put aside? What are some of those things? What are all the obstacles? Then focus on the gratitude. Get your energy really high, and then start looking at what are ways of overcoming those obstacles. Now that you've got your focus in a whole different way, suddenly you're going to find new ways to start making that dream happen. And then the last thing is to recognize that having those people around you who are your dream carriers, this is the people who will help you carry your dream forward when you can't carry it yourself. I had a friend who lost her husband, and she was on the brink of huge success. And at that point, it stopped all of her progress forward. She then put aside that dream, but she had others that she had told about the dream, and they came alongside of her, helped her to carry that dream forward until she was able to pick it back up and then take it on to success. So, the challenge I have for you, the encouragement I have for you is one, look at your life. What are things that you can do to love yourself better so that you can love others better? Love those people around you, those people in your family, the people that are truly your neighbors, those people that you run into on the street. It's amazing the impact we can have on someone's life by doing something as simple as a smile. So, do you have those people who are going to help prop you up along the way? Those people who are going to carry you along? Or are you surrounded by those who are just holding you back and holding you down? If that's the case, find a new set to come alongside of you to help you carry those things forward. But, in the end, life is short. Life is precious. Each one of us have amazing, unique gifts and talents that God intended you to use. The better you use those, the better that you're going to find things falling into place in your life, in the lives of your family, because the happier you are, the happier you're going to make those people around you as well. So I am just excited to hear stories about what maybe you've done and how things are changing as a result of even thinking about going through those 5 steps and overcoming those obstacles, those dreams that you put aside. What dreams are you ready to pick back up and embrace in order to then make the difference in the world that you're here to make? Our kids, all of us have unique brilliances inside. We have uniqueness that needs to be unleashed. So don't be selfish with that stuff. Get out there, take care of yourself, and treat the world to that unique gift that is you. That is the things that you have to offer, and that you're going to make a difference in the world. And it starts first with you, then it falls over onto your family, and then from there it falls on to anyone else you come alongside of. And so I'm excited to hear more about what happens for those around you and for you as you start changing the way that you look at things, the way that you educate yourself as well as your children. And so it's been exciting to be here, and I'm excited for all that you're doing, Abram. And I know that there's nothing but amazing things coming as you continue into the next stages of all that you're working on as well.
Thank you so much, Earlene, for those kind words, but just the beautiful share. You said so many things that like hit home for me, like just so many things. Like I was like kind of making some notes. I was like, I want to ask her about this, going like the starving artist mentality, loving your neighbor as yourself. Like those are all things that have really like been in my space, and it's very much resonates with just everything with this space of what this is all about. Really quick, because we're going to have a conversation about that. I just wanted to check in with all our guests and take this opportunity and to invite you, as Earlene was saying, you all have a unique gift. We all have a unique genius. And I want to invite you to share your story, your unique gift on this stage here. This is who you are is a gift. And there is something that you have that none of us have. And we are enriched by what you have to offer. And it's that simple. And it's, in my own story, I was afraid of sharing myself because I was, living in the world. Back to what you were saying, Earlene, it's those 5-year-old conversations. When I was 5 years old, I would tell myself based on an experience that I had that I wasn't enough and the world is dismissive. And, and I would seek evidence that to fit that, because that's what I thought. That was the eyes and the focus and the lens that I saw the world. So like, I believed that and I carried that. And, when I discovered, in my own journey, who I'm not those thoughts, I'm not those fears, I'm not those obstacles. I discovered I'm not my thoughts, I'm not my emotions, I'm not my bodily sensations, I'm not like who I am is none of those things. And as I kind of peeled that onion, I kind of I realized the things I was afraid of the most in myself were actually the gift that I had to share, but I was just too afraid to actually share because I was afraid of what people would think about me. And it's so powerful. But I want to invite you all to share your gift. You can go to onedaymvmt.org/share my gift. And that's what this space is for. It's for you to share your gift. And that's part of our one day mission, which is bringing you and me and communities together in joyous celebration, unifying humanity in our diversity to create a better world for us all. And that's why we're here. That we are here to share your gift, because I say this a lot. Maybe it's because I'm a little selfish. Maybe I want to experience the gift that you are, but I also want to share the gift that you are, because that's what we all gain from you sharing. Your truest, what you've been through and what you have to bring is something so unique that we all have something to gain from. And when we actually see and experience and recognize the gift that we are, there's 8 billion gifts that we all have to receive. And it's that's what I want. That's what I'm inspired by. But I want to turn back to you, Earlene. You said so many things that were just powerful. From loving your neighbor as yourself, but you're also kind of talking about, made me think of like in the airplane, you have to take care of yourself before you take care of others. Or on the airplane they say put your face mask on yourself before you put it on someone else, and it's kind of that same sentiment. I've spent a lot of my life, not even asking myself my own needs, my own wants or desires, or what I needed to just be whole and balanced and center. And I would try to, help and please others, all the while ignoring, not loving myself. And that, it seems, that prevented me from actually fully contributing to people, because I was in my own way. I'm wondering if what experience you had, if you had any similar experiences to that.
Yeah, absolutely. And as you were talking, one of the things that struck me is that it's all too often that there is the perception, and again, I'm going to say even the lie, that by taking care of ourselves, we're being selfish. And that is so opposite of the truth. But if my kids need me, therefore I have to go do this for them, as opposed to taking that time away for yourself, taking and feeding your soul, so that when you show up for your kids, you're absolutely totally present and there for them in that moment, instead of being worn down and beaten up and all those other things. So it's so true. And another quote that I absolutely love that you triggered a thought for is Henry Ford's, "If you think you can or you think you can't, you're right." And it is right. So true. Whatever we believe that becomes our truth, and that becomes our reality. So whatever you think about, you bring about. And so we can choose to start listening to ourselves, and at the core of who we are, what it is that we're supposed to be doing, and what really truly lights our soul up. Because at the point where we embrace that, then we have a much different impact on the world around us.
Right. No, I love that Ford quote. It's so true. What we say to ourselves in our reality, in our own description and our own subjective experience of our reality, when we say when we believe something, it's whether we believe we can or we believe we can't, we're right, because we set it up. And if we'll set ourselves up, we disempower and set ourselves up for failure or success based on how the conversations that we have with ourselves. And it's funny because, I feel like the natural inclination, at least for me in my life, was assuming the opposite. Like, once I get to this point, then I'll be able to, it's like this, it's like what you're talking about, following your dreams. Like, like we all have them, and it takes courage to actually stand in our dreams, because whether we follow them or not, we feel the following or the not, or the lack of following it. It's like it is a burning desire in us, no matter what we do. Like, it is our choice, and it's like we could, and it's very much like a dream. It's like, well, just the term one day is like, this is very relevant, is because a lot of time we'll use the phrase one day as someday in the future. Like, one day I'll be happy. One day I'll talk to this person that I love. One day I will follow my dreams. One day I'll lose that weight or whatever. But like, we will say one day as something that we desire, all the while removing any responsibility for that said future. Right? So it's like we treat it as a someday maybe, but not now. And I think it's so powerful, just like in kind of what you were also saying about, when in school, when your teacher, where you believed that you weren't creative based on this outside force. And it's the same thing. It's like, we believe those conversations based on one instance. It will change. Like, just in an instant, we make something up about ourselves. Like, yep, I'm not creative, and that's always the way it's been, and no one can tell me differently because that's the way I see it, and that's the way it's always been. And it's like, no, we chose that. We chose to believe that lie. It's so powerful.
Yeah, it is. And it a lot of the most powerful ones are the most subtle. A simple little sad face on one paper that caused my little 5-year-old brain to start thinking something. So it can be something as subtle, and it can be something that's very unintended by the person who's giving that message. That's not to say that there aren't people out there who I would call the dream stealers, those who are the ones that are telling you can't do something and all of the 25 reasons you can't. But I think some of the ones that are most hidden, and the lies that kind of run through the back of our mind on an ongoing basis that hold us back, are sometimes the ones that come from the most subtle examples. And it wasn't until probably 7-8 years ago that I realized that I had that running through my head, even though I had proven to be wildly creative in my corporate work life. It still was one of those things on different fronts that it was holding me back, because I had allowed something to take root years ago and hadn't recognized that was what was going on. And that's the thing that I think that as adults, we have opportunity to reflect back to the stories that we might be running. But what are the things we're feeding our kids? What are the pressures we're putting on our kids to do to fit the mold of what society says they need to do? I'm not a good mom if I didn't get my kid to go to college. And that is honestly one of those things that goes on in many moms' heads, is that I have to make sure that I set my kid up for success by helping them get into a college, that in reality, they're putting pressure on themselves. They're putting pressure on their kids to go down a path that God never intended for them in the first place. And
right.
So it's learning to be able to embrace that as well.
Right. Well, that's powerful. And what you were saying about, that, being, well, the conversation about not being creative, I just think it's so fascinating, the irony of the conversation that you believe that you weren't creative, and how creative, in fact, you were in your mind, to avoid actually believing that you were creative. Like, you were creative in how you told yourself that you weren't creative. That's like, it's poetic, because it's like, that's what our, that's what our mind does. We will associate with some story, mm-hmm. and view that story as our frame, the way they see the world, and not even realize that it's like, who we're being is the opposite of that.
Absolutely.
I think that's so powerful. And what you were saying about being a starving artist, like that one hit home. For even longer than I'd like to probably admit, like, I still probably have that. We'll definitely have that conversation sometimes. I've been a touring musician for almost 14 years. And, for a long time, I took pride in not needing to make much money. I would just get by. I'd be able to live on the road. I would, meet amazing people you meet the most amazing, incredible people who support on the road. You just meet the most incredible people, because the people with the least are always the ones that give the most. And you just meet these people who are so appreciative and so grateful, and they take you in. And I would live in that and say, I don't need to make a lot. I'm an artist. I give away my music. I don't want to, if I sell it, then I'm a sellout. But it would be like money was not something that I deserved. And it was like I put myself in this place where if I ever had money, I would just spend it, but I would never like try to actually value myself monetarily, and I would avoid that conversation altogether. And all the while carrying that starving artist pridefully. It's like, yeah, I'm an artist and I don't need much to get by, and I'm free, and I'm this. And like, I had this conversation like that.
Yeah. Well, and as you say that, I think one of the things we lose sight of in the midst of that conversation is that there are so many more people's lives that we can impact when that isn't our life. When we allow the income, the abundance to flow in, allowing us to have a bigger and wider reach and a bigger and wider impact, then that's it. And I heard someone recently in another workshop I was in that was talking about, we have these beautiful gifts. And in those gifts, if we aren't using them to make a difference in other people's lives around us, if we're holding back and we're just too fearful to step out, too fearful to go do the things that we know we could and should be doing, we're actually being selfish. And for one person, for me to think of the fact that I'm not doing that, or that I've only allowed myself this much success, means that there are a whole bunch of people that I haven't been able to impact because I've held back and I've not allowed that success to flow in.
Right. Absolutely. And that's a really good way to put it. It's interesting when we don't follow we don't share or follow our gifts or our passions, we're depriving ourselves, we're depriving everyone in our lives, and we're depriving the world to experience what you have to share. And that's what like boggles my mind. And that's why I'm like so inspired. And one day is like, what's possible when we actually recognize that within ourselves, and we actually do follow that, and we actually show up to ourselves, and then also show up, because we're able to take care of ourselves, because we're able to recognize and experience our authentic selves, we can show up in community, in collaboration. And that's what inspires me, is what's possible. Like, it just in the world of we're not just trying to survive. I'm not just trying to cure COVID and then go back to normal, whatever that means. It's like, I want to know what's possible. What diseases can we cure together? What can we overcome as a world? What new scientific discoveries? What new spiritual collaborations? What new recipes can we create? What art and masterpieces and music, and that's what new expression can we create? And that's what excites me. That's what inspires me. I don't want to have those conversations of just getting by and just surviving. It's surviving is from fear. And I want to have conversations based on our dreams, but also our acknowledging our true authentic self, but also our true power, just like everything energetically, everything we say or don't say, every word promise we make kept or broken, every handshake or fist we extend, every smile, smirk, or frown has an impact and reflects and ripples across the entire universe and affects the course of everything that is. And if we each recognize that power that we have right now and right now and right now, what's possible? That's what excites me.
Yeah, well, and one of the things that you said that I really caught on to is the point about collaboration, because you're out there not for your own success, but you're out there for making a difference in someone else's life. And maybe it is coming along someone else and collaborating with them to where you together are serving an even broader audience. And so a big part of the core of who I am is, it's not about the competition. It's not that I can do these things way better than this other person. It really is all comes down to, who do you resonate with? Who do you connect with on more of a soul connection level? There are some people that that just don't connect well because that's just the person they are. That doesn't make them bad. That doesn't make them wrong. That just makes them someone that isn't intended for me to serve. But then there are other
Right.
people who are out there that I am to serve. And
Right.
knowing that there's someone else who is going to take care of this person that I can't is awesome, because that's not my job. My job is to focus over here, but supporting those others and knowing, I think one of the other biggest joys I get through a lot of my ongoing networking is opportunity to connect to people that can make a difference in their lives. And so the fact that it does nothing for me other than just light me up because I was able to say, hey, you guys need to know each other because you guys can help each other be more successful together. And, I think that where our focus is all about how we come together in community, how we can collaborate and be a competition-free type mentality, but instead into how can we together serve people the very best makes a difference in our world.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Beautifully said. And back to what you were saying in the beginning of your share, talking about, Jesus and love your neighbor as yourself. And, no matter anybody's faith, what I've seen is every spiritual practice, even every secular organization has some version of the golden rule,
Mm-hmm.
do unto others how you want to be treated, love thy neighbor as thyself. And that's something that it's so powerful. And it's something that COVID has pointed to in a certain indirectly, because we see like when I'm sick or my neighbor's sick or their family's, that means I can be sick. But the opposite is also true. It's like when my neighbor's healthy and my neighbors and their family are healthy and safe, so am I.
Mm-hmm.
And it's what I see is like, in that golden rule, in that, as Jesus called like the greatest commandment is, love thy neighbor as thyself. When we are loving our neighbor, we are in fact loving ourselves, because like there's no way to, when there's toxicity in whether it's in a physical sense, a emotional, psychological, or spiritual sense, it doesn't go away. It just changes form and it comes back. So any like toxicity or toxic energy that we allow and that we give space for
Mm-hmm.
is going to be like a weed in a garden that's we're just watering it. We're just, and what we focus on, whether we focus on the beauty or we focus on the ugly, it will grow when we give it water and we give it sun. But I just see like just universally loving everybody and truly loving everybody, meeting them where they're at, and and radical acceptance, and not seeing them as a label or as wrong, seeing them as, the saying, hurt people hurt people. The person that's hurting is not, they aren't at the wheel. They are at the effect and marinating in their own, their own suffering.
Yeah. And as you're talking, I'm reminded of another conversation I was involved in. And it really is in the midst of the chaos and everything that's out there is how do we find middle ground? How do we find a place that we can be united?
Right.
And that doesn't have a single answer of you're right and I'm wrong, or I'm right and you're wrong. But in it, it's a conversation. And the better we can get at opening up that conversation and making a statement that invites the conversation to happen, as opposed to this is the right answer and you're wrong, then it allows for both of us to grow together. And I think that that's right. One of the things that's a challenge that we've got going on even now on the racial tension side. You name it, we've got all these things we're throwing, and what we're not doing as well, and I'm learning to do it better myself, is to express myself in a way with clarity that allows me to make a point that isn't trying to flare the reaction, but instead it's inviting an open and honest conversation, because there's so much that I haven't experienced in my life. I happen to be white, therefore I've never had black skin, so I don't know what it's like to live that life. But I've had other experiences that they haven't. And so together, the better we can have that conversation and be open to learning more from each other, the more we can find opportunity to find middle ground and that we can become united instead of separated and divided.
Absolutely. Oh, yes. I love it. Well, there's so much power in that, in not in setting aside, well, it's like you're saying, inviting. It's like I've only learned, like, truly, like the biggest growth I've had in, like, the lessons I've learned. I mean, the same, like, have not been from my successes, they've been from my failures, but also the lessons I've learned have not been just talking to people that I agree with my current worldview. It's I've only really truly learned from, like, setting aside my I think, like, setting aside, like Socrates said, the one who knows, like, I forget the exact quote, but with true wisdom is knowing that, well, you don't know anything, and it's and some of my biggest growth and transformation and biggest lessons I've learned are from people that I don't necessarily agree with, or people I don't necessarily understand. But it was like, but when I was able to actually, like, listen, just like, who is this human? Like, what's their world like? What are they? Where are they? Like, what's in their world? And when I can actually just set aside my chatter in my brain, the label, this is bad, this is good, like, oh, wait, they think that? They really believe that? It's like, if I can just hear them and see them as a person who just ultimately wants them and their family and their community to be healthy, to be happy, to be safe, I can actually get in their world and grow. And and then there's a gift that I've learned through just, it's like how we can be, with humility, we can set aside our, definitive, like, so in this ever expanding, ever growing, vast universe, I am the one person that has the definitive truth. I get it. Like, nobody else gets it quite, like, but I got it. And it's like, who do we think we are if we think we, with absolute certainty, know what truth is in a limited capacity that our brain could even conceive? Like, we don't know anything. Like, that's, like, we don't know. And it's like, our thoughts are not even the judge of that, and we want to believe they are. And it's like, I mean, I could talk about this with you for a while, but it's like, I feel like a lot of the arguments of truth and what truth even means is from that space of knowing. In my experience, truth is an experience, not just a piece of book knowledge. It's like, oh, there's the truth, I know it to be true, and I'm right, and those other people who don't know that are wrong. It's like, truth is a experience, and we use different words to point to that experience, but some people are from different places and use different words to describe it, because this is a vast world with a multi-dimensional, multi-ethnic, cultural backgrounds and generations of human development and civilization.
Yeah, and it's interesting, as you were talking, you reminded me of a situation where I was involved in a group workshop, and I was the outsider in that group. I was the one person that didn't believe the same way all of the rest of the people in the group. How I landed there, I don't really know. Actually, I do know. I know it was a divine appointment with opportunity to be able to have this recognition that part of the language that they're using as they're wanting to convince their relatives that were more in line with my belief system was, how do I convince them that they're wrong? And how do I convince them that they need to change? And right. I'm at that point recognizing that, my belief is I want to build that bridge of conversation, because I happen to believe things very differently. I see them, and my input sources are different. I've gotten my information from one place, and I have my own filters that have grown with me over the years of my life, just as they have. And as a result, we have this view of the world that is kind of this narrow view down the middle. And the more that we're able to allow the blinders to fall off and start hearing that other side, recognizing that in the end, what we all want is the same thing. We want to see unity. We want to see that our country comes together and does a better job of loving each other and supporting each other and doing amazing things. It's just that we come at it from two different perspectives. So how do we bring those two very different perspectives down to that united bridge in the middle, and then figure out how we figure everything else along the way?
Yeah, absolutely. It's It's things are not as black and white as we want to believe, and it's like everything is in a gray area, and it's when we can actually show up from a place not only of non-judgment and acceptance, but like showing up with a openness to see people as who they are, not as their suffering or as their pain or as they're marinating in their own ego, shadow, flesh, whatever you want to call it, whatever cultural, spiritual distinction to describe it. We all have that. We all have that, and for some reason this is coming to me as a reminder of just this. I mean, this is a bit biblical teaching, but I feel like a lot of spirituality, I mean, well, a lot of things point to the same truth as the way I see it, at least. And I feel like humans, we are born sitting down. Mm-hmm. And not until we hit the floor with our face flat on the floor are we able to stand up. Mm-hmm. Like we have to, like our face has to be in the mud, like fully, for us to actually see. It's like because we're sitting down, you're like, this is life, like look at me, like everything's great, and then it's like we think life is a certain way when we're born into this world, and we have these stories and these constructs and these agreements that we internalize and build and perceive the world through those lenses. But then something, eventually it comes to a head because it doesn't line up. Like what we think is true, what we think in our experience is absolute, is actually finite. It has, there is an equal opposite to everything in this physical world. And not until we actually see we're not all these things that the conversations in society often point to, can we actually peel away in those old conversations and see not only are we none of those things, but we're so much greater than those things. We are so much greater than anything in this physical world could describe, whether it's our status, our money, our relationships, our wealth, our whatever. It's like all these, our job, our profession, our career, our like all those things have nothing to do with like who we are. Mm-hmm. It's like it's who we're being that allows us to do anything from that space of our own peace and our own experience of our true self.
Yeah, as you're raising that, I'm reminded that the biggest gift we can give ourselves and those people around us is to stay curious. So what curiosity, what's possible? Asking more questions and looking for more insight into what's possible, as opposed to assuming we know. And it's even sometimes as simple as asking someone else that's interesting. Why do you believe that? Or how did you come to that conclusion? And the better we can get at being curious and asking questions, the better we can get at learning more and suddenly finding that we have more in common than we have differences.
Right. I think you hit the nail on the head. Curiosity is what allows the space for acceptance. It's like, it's not like you're wrong. Why would you believe that? How could you think that? It's like why? What makes you believe that? Or what led you to come to that conclusion? It's like, it's because a lot of times when we believe something, we don't even realize why or how we came to believe it. And it's in that question that we actually look at ourselves. Yeah. We actually see that. So I think that's very powerful. I really am just so grateful and honored to have you share with us, Earlene, and your stories, your wisdom, your insight, and your just who you're being. It's such a beautiful soul, and I really just appreciate and honor you. So just thank you so much for sharing with us just the gift that you are.
Yeah, well, thank you for the invitation, and I enjoyed being here, and I absolutely believe wholeheartedly in what you're up to, and so I'm excited to see all of your next successes as well.
Oh, thank you so much. Well, I would love to have you back and share some more. This has been an amazing conversation, and I just really appreciate you sharing. It's just like I feel energized just hearing you share. I feel really just inspired by everything you said. It's just like it's funny because it was relevant, but for all the things happening in my life, it's always like seems like divine timing. It's like, oh well, that's exactly what I needed to hear.
Yeah, well, God is good that way.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much again, Earlene. This is it's been a great conversation. And we're definitely going to have you come back again soon. And thank you to all of our guests who are tuning in with us. Thank you again. I want to again take this opportunity to invite you to share your story, share the gift that you are. Your unique genius, your unique gifts, your unique contributions is just that. It is a gift. And I want to receive, I want to experience, and I want to share that gift, because even if you don't even know what that is, I guarantee you have one. I would bet you all the money in the world, which, I mean, I don't own all the money in the world, but you know what I mean. Like, I want to share your gift. I want to share what you have, because it enriches me and it enriches everybody. Even if we can't even see and recognize it, it's like you sharing yourself authentically and vulnerably is what allows us all to connect with each other and, alleviate those conversations of separateness and division. And actually, it is in the shared human connection that we can actually see ourselves and see our collective greater good. And this is an open invitation, and you will be met with love and acceptance, with compassion, just for who you are, for where you're at. And this is a space for you to share. And this is part of our one-day vision, which is humanity rising in a connected world, with each person's unique contributions being valued and magnified through a higher level of collaboration, producing unprecedented new realms of possibility. That's what this movement is about, and that's why we're holding this space. Thank you all for tuning in with us. Thank you, Earlene, again for sharing. I love you all. Be safe, be well, and we'll see you next week. And like always, one day is today.